If someone asked you to draw an alien, what would you actually do? You, let me guess, you'd probably draw it with one eye, or 3 eyes, or maybe 7 eyes. But you've never seen an alien. You don't know that it has eyes to see. Nor has anyone you've ever met seen an alien and told you about it. And you even know that there are animals, what we're more familiar with is what we lean towards. And even then, we think that it must have eyes. So then decades pass in satsang, and it's still difficult to fully understand the Satpurush, Satpurush's greatness and form. But what is it that we do understand, and understand well? It's gathering wealth and possessions, and having that never-ending desire for more. We understand our relationship with all this. We understand other people's relationship with it. We know that it gives rise to greed, deceit, crimes, and simply that desire for more. So using something we understand well, and using that as a benchmark, we can take advantage of it, and use that very thing to see the purity in the Satpurush, and the abyss that exists between him and us. Because we heard earlier that we only rely on our own experiences and mindset to understand Bhagwan. So if we can strengthen our trust in the Satpurush, we can start accepting his words, live according to them, and ultimately develop Nishchay in Bhagwan and Sant. In Loya 2, Maharaj says that if one develops the highest trust in the words of Pratyaksh Bhagwan, then due to that Nishchay, their fear of death is overcome. And they're assured of their moksha in this very life. In Loya 3, Maharaj adds that with complete Nishchay, there is no limit to what one can do for this Bhagwan and this Sant. That person never reaches their capacity. They keep scaling new heights. Nothing is beyond them. Shri Swami Narayan Bhagwan Ni Jai, Akshar Purushottam Maharaj Ni Jai, Pramukh Swami Maharaj Ni Jai, Mahanta Swami Maharaj Ni Jai. In 1978, a guy from London decides to go to India in search of an enlightened guru, so that he could find someone who could progress him along on his path of spirituality. He himself was Gujarati, but he didn't have any biases or prejudices, so he didn't think that he had to start in Gujarat. Instead, he went to the Himalayas, and he went from ashram to ashram, meeting the heads, meeting the mahants, spending time with them, learning their philosophies, doing the sadhana that they prescribed. But wherever he went, nothing struck a chord, nothing resonated the way that he had hoped for. So after a while, he phoned his parents back home in London and said that, I'm actually coming back. And his parents were delighted to have him back, but said that do one thing before you get here. Go to Ahmedabad, where Pramukh Swami Maharaj is. Just do his darshan. They weren't satsangis, but they had heard of Pramukh Swami. So he goes there, he gets to Ahmedabad, he gets to the Sant Ashram, and he gets to Pramukh Swami's room. He opens the door, and Pramukh Swami Maharaj is responding to letters. Bapa doesn't look up. Bapa doesn't acknowledge him. Bapa continues writing. So instead of walking in, he keeps his hand on the door handle and just looks at Bapa and thinks that, you know what? You're just like the rest of them. You wear orange, they wear orange. You shave your head, they shave their heads. And then he decided to look around the room and saw that actually Bapa was more simple in appearance than most others. Others have phenomenal jattas on their head, long beards, rudra madas around their necks. And he thought that Bapa in fact was more simple. So even without meeting Bapa, he decided to leave quietly without him noticing. And as he's about to pull the door, Pramukh Swami Maharaj continues writing. He doesn't look up. He doesn't break stride. And Pramukh Swami says, Tu mane samjhe che, evo hu nathi. Hu jo dekhav chu, evo hu nathi. Meaning that what you understand me to be like isn't what I'm actually like. How I look like, what I appear to you as, isn't what I'm actually like. And this guy was just stunned. He didn't move, he just continued looking at Bapa. But instead of leaving, he then goes to meet Bapa. So stunned was he that he ended up becoming Pramukh Swami's driver for over 30 years. His name was Indravadan Bhai. And it's very difficult to understand the Satpurush. One of the reasons is what Maharaj says in the Vachanamrut in Loya 18, that we reflect our own experiences and what's going on within our minds onto Bhagwan. To explain that in the most elementary way, take the example of an alien. If someone asked you to draw an alien, what would you do? What would you actually do? Let me guess, you'd probably draw it with one eye, or 3 eyes, or maybe 7 eyes. But you've never seen an alien. You don't know that it has eyes to see. Nor has anyone you've ever met seen an alien and told you about it. And you even know that there are animals in the animal kingdom on planet Earth who live without eyes. But yet, what we're more familiar with is what we lean towards. And even then, we think that it must have eyes. So then decades pass in satsang, and it's still difficult to fully understand the Satpurush, Satpurush's greatness and form. But what is it that we do understand, and understand well? It's gathering wealth and possessions, and having that never-ending desire for more. We understand our relationship with all this. We understand other people's relationship with it. We know that it gives rise to greed, deceit, crimes, and simply that desire for more fuels trillions of dollar industries. We think we're the consumers, but in reality we're the ones being consumed by this never-ending desire for more, because it's always on our minds, and we become obsessed with it. No one remembers there being an international conference call with the world's entire population, where everyone unanimously agreed that the name of the game is to acquire as much wealth as possible. Like, is everyone in? Okay, good. Ready, set, go. Yet somehow, everyone's on the same page, because that's Maya's sweeping power and oppression over us. So using something we understand well, and using that as a benchmark, we can take advantage of it, and use that very thing to see the purity in the Satpurush, and the abyss that exists between him and us. And that's important, because we heard earlier that we only rely on our own experiences and mindset to understand Bhagwan. So if we can strengthen our trust in the Satpurush, we can start accepting his words, live according to them, and ultimately develop Nishchay in Bhagwan and Sant. Nishchay is that unwavering conviction in their greatness and their form. Maharaj in the Vachanamrut, Gadara section 326, asks, what are the characteristics of a Sant who is worthy of being worshipped on par with Bhagwan? Maharaj himself replies and explains that it's someone who is staunch in their observance of their Panchvartman, Nishkam, Nirlobh, Nirman, Niswad, Nisne, someone who isn't suppressed by Maya, and someone who, despite being Brahmrup, worships Bhagwan. Maharaj says that such a Sant should not be thought of as a human being, nor a Devta, because such behavior is just not possible for humans or Devtas. Perhaps also giving another reason as to why it's so difficult to fully understand the Satpurush. We've never met anyone like this before. And within that, Maharaj mentions Nirlobhipanu, which we'll use as a scope to describe the Satpurush's purity. Nirlobhipanu means non-greed, non-avarice, and simply put, it's not having that temporal and material desire for something more or for something better. We see the decadent and overindulgent nature of today's world. But over 200 years ago, in the Vachanamrut, Gadara section 167, Maharaj guides us and reassures us that there is someone, there is the Satpurush, who, unlike everyone else, has no affection at all for the pleasures of this world. He doesn't do anything for the sake of his bodily comforts. He harbors desires only for Bhagwan, and even more than that, he wishes the same for all those who associate with him. Meaning that he breaks our mamatva, that feeling that this is mine, for the things we value most, and instead connects it in Bhagwan's karya. So in the end, our mamatva remains only for Bhagwan and Sant. On the 7th of July, 2009, a devotee by the name of Shambhubai came to meet Pramukh Sai Maharaj in Bochasan. He tells Bapa that every Punam, no matter where you may be, I come for your darshan. And so every Punam, I want to give seva. So Bapa, how much should I give? Pramukh Sai Maharaj immediately says 51 rupees. And so he responds that, Bapa, please be serious. Like, that's nothing. Bapa goes, I am being serious, 51 rupees. And so he asks her why. He goes that once upon a time, your Dada gave 51 rupees to my Guru Shastriji Maharaj. And that was around 75 years prior to this incident. And so to honor that, keep it the same. So times had changed, circumstances had changed, and his business had grown exponentially. So he tells Bapa, Bapa, please, take more, we're more than capable. Bapa says 51. 3 times he told Bapa to increase it. And in the end, Shambhubai ended up adding as many zeros as he thought was appropriate, which went on to show that he was very, very capable of giving, and Bapa knew that. But to Pramukh Swami, it was a case of, your Dada did something noble for my Guru. And so in honor of that, and in remembrance of that, keep it the same. Times and circumstances have changed. His family business had grown exponentially. But Pramukh Swami's bhakti and tribute to his Guru remained timeless. In moments when he's being offered everything, his mind resides in his Gurus. In 1979, Pramukh Swami Maharaj was in the south of Gujarat, and he was doing Vichran in the Adivasi areas of Sankri. Bapa had then come to Surat. In the entire month of being in Sankri, they had made 49 rupees and 50 paisa in seva. That's what had come in. And as soon as Bapa got to Surat, in the first 30 minutes, Hari Bhaktas were obviously excited to see him. And because of their bhakti, 7 lakh rupees were given in donations. The 1 month of Vichran in tribal villages during the monsoon season meant that the humidity was off the charts, where Pramukh Maharaj in the tribal villages, aged almost 60, is having to walk through ankle-deep mud, sleeping on haystacks, having to bend down to enter the 4-foot entrances to mud huts, going inside and having to lay a bag on the floor, and then sitting cross-legged. There's no electricity, so no fans, no ACs, no faucets, taps in the houses. And in Surat, there are all these arrangements and facilities. So the Hari Bhaktas, who tell Pramukh Swami this, that Bapa, 49 rupees had come in donations for the entire month versus the 7 lakh in 30 minutes. Bapa, it's a no-brainer. Obviously you should spend all your time here. And Bapa goes, is that why we do Vichran? We do it so they live righteous, addiction-free lives. So there is peace and happiness within their families and tribes. So they turn towards Bhagwan and offer bhakti. To me, this is worth more. In this world, even if people rank amongst the top 5% of the wealthiest, there's a limit to how much a secretary can do. They still have to do administrative tasks themselves, and no one likes it. It's tedious, it's mundane, and everyone thinks that they're too good for it. So to make themselves feel better, many people quantify their self-worth by taking their total compensation for the year, dividing it by the amount of days they work, and then by the hours they work, so they feel reassured and appeased whilst doing their admin work. Because in the back of their minds, they know how much they're being paid for that 1 hour of mindless work, therefore proving that it's money that makes doing tasks like this bearable, and money is what provides comfort and hope to most people. And by contrast, in the Vachanamrut, Loya 10, Maharaj, in describing someone as ideal as a Satpurush, states that someone who is in a kingdom, so in this context would be something like Surat, with thousands of people under his command, and he is wealthy. But he himself doesn't think that it's this that makes him great. And equally, if he has to go from house to house with a begging bowl, so in this context it would be the tribal villages, he doesn't consider himself to be poor. Why? Because he remains absolutely carefree, knowing the greatness and worth of his true self and that of Bhagwan. And so he views gold and dust as being equal. Nothing is capable of tethering him and influencing him. Which is why even today, aged 92, and against the advice of his medical staff, and having palace-like mandirs in Robbinsville, London, Abu Dhabi, Delhi to stay in, you'll find Manswai Maharaj going to Himmatnagar, Jamnagar, Mehsana, places that you and I wouldn't choose to spend time in. So we saw some of the physical things, some of the more tangible things when it comes to what's Nirlobi Banu. But what about the things that are slightly more subtle? In 1974, Pramukh Swami Maharaj was in Mumbai, and that day, in fact, in a few hours, him and the Santos were about to embark on what would be one of the most epic Bardeshi Vicharans, lasting over 9 months. And as you can imagine, there are santos there who have never been to England and America. And so they're excited, they're running around, doing their last-minute packing, the last-minute tasks that need to be ticked off. And you can visualize it. You can imagine the atmosphere is actually very electric because of what's about to happen. All the while, Brahmoksa Maharaj is sat on a swing, and he's just observing everything. And so Bapa calls everyone, and he says, sit down, and pass me the Vachanamrut. Brahmoksa Maharaj says, open Gadara Madhya 50, Gadara section 250. And in that Bapa says that, why would you offer comforts to a body that ultimately is reduced to dust and ashes? In that Vachanamrut it says that the Satpurush's love is only for Bhagwan and his bhaktos. He doesn't have any desires in his dreams. Now, when you circle back to Pratham 67, where it said that he wishes the same for all those who associate with him, that he doesn't want them to have any affection for anything else. These santos are traveling in Bapa. They're associating with him. And actually, that excitement is quite harmless. It's innocent. And even now, you look in India and you see the hype and desperation to go to these countries. Imagine that back 50 years ago. But it's desire nonetheless. And for us, it may seem harmless. It may not even seem like lob. But we know only too well how much that desire for more likes, more views, more followers, more adulation undermines us. Maharaj in Karyani 6 talks about the Satpurush as being Akash Sarkha Nirlep. And without Bhagwan and the devotees of Bhagwan, the accumulated wealth of the 14 realms is as worthless as a blade of grass. Akash is space, but more commonly refers to the sky because that's our window into space. It doesn't matter if there are dark clouds forming, or that the thunder is deafening, or whether there's global economic turmoil or political tension. The sky forever remains untouched, unaffected. And at times we even fall for the illusion on the horizon line in thinking that the sky touches the earth. And so we believe that there must be some kind of connection and association, but they never touch. It's flawlessly detached. On Fagan Sud Trij, 2024, Mansai Maharaj was in Ahmedabad. That day happens to be the anniversary of the Kalupur Mandir that Shiji Maharaj had built. So Mansai Maharaj was sat inside his sarvasva, surrounded by only his staff santos, and they decided to use this as an opportunity to ask him a few things. They asked Mansai Maharaj that, you've been guru now for 8.5 years. You have overseen the building of 500 mandirs, large and small. They tell him that you're a visionary. And so you have suggestions and improvements for everything. You have the smallest of improvements for the smallest of mandirs that you and I, again, probably would never even know about or even go to. But they ask him that, why is it that never once have you had a suggestion or an improvement for your own residence, for the place that you stay in? You have suggestions for Bhagwan's Garbhaguru, for Santo's residence, for Hari Bhakto's residence, but never for yourself. And then Mansai Maharaj says that Ato badu Bhagwan mate che, apne to gamme tya padi rahe. Meaning everything we do is for Bhagwan. Ame to gamme tya padi rahe means that if there's space on the floor, we can just stay there. We can just find a little bit of space and sleep there. And so when you contrast that with us, when we book an Airbnb, a 5-star Airbnb in the best location with our nearest and dearest, we calculate this down to an art. We know that when we get into the rental car on our way to the Airbnb from the airport, we put our bags last so that when we get to the Airbnb, they come off first. When we get there, we've already seen the pictures, so we know what the nicest room is. So we take our luggage and we get there as fast as we can. And when we find it, we put our hand luggage on the bed, we put our check-in luggage next to the bed, and then we take our jacket off and we carry it. Why? Just to make sure that there isn't another room that's better than this one, in case the photos on the website didn't do it justice. And so then we go. And if we find it, we will place our jacket on that bed and then bring our luggage. I don't know if this is wrong, but welcome to what it means to be human. But more importantly, it helps us see the contrast between him, the Satpurush, and the rest of us. There are thousands of prasangs like these that enable us to realize the Satpurush as being above Maya, as being virtuous, honest, and pure. So then, when we place our trust in their words, we develop Nishchay. That's not by some happy coincidence, it's by design. Maharaj in the Vachanamrut repeatedly tells us that this is the only way Nishchay can develop. Now, based on the Vachanamrut, what are some of the tangible benefits of Nishchay that can be experienced in the near future? Saying tangible, given that what we have is pratyaksh, meaning that it's in front of our eyes, in Mansai Maharaj. And because of that attainment, we can literally see santos and Hari Bhaktos all around us living it. Wherever Nishchay is mentioned, Maharaj unfailingly talks about Pragat or pratyaksh. In Gadara section 1, 62, Maharaj mentions that when that absolute Nishchay and pratyaksh develops, that is that this is the all-doer, and yet he's unaffected by it. Then no matter what this person reads, what they hear, they themselves become unaffected. They develop that ironclad resolve, that Bhagwan itle Bhagwan. They become stable and confident, and they don't sway with public opinion. Around 15 years ago, I remember reading a saying that went something like, "The secret to having it all is knowing that you already do." 200 years ago, in Gadara section 1, 63, Maharaj explains that a person with total Nishchay feels that I have attained all there is to attain, and wherever pratyaksh Bhagwan resides, that itself is the highest abode. And that awareness constantly remains at the forefront of their minds, not because of their status, their seva, their department, or the people they know. It's simply due to who they've attained, and that's enough. In Gadara section 124, Maharaj says that one who has complete Nishchay, then the inappropriate thoughts that plague us, that cause mental disturbances, that prevent us from being able to choose our next thought, that induce poor decisions, they cease to exist. They're destroyed. In Loya 2, Maharaj says that if one develops the highest trust in the words of pratyaksh Bhagwan, then due to that Nishchay, their fear of death is overcome. And they're assured of their moksha in this very life. In Loya 3, Maharaj adds that with complete Nishchay, there is no limit to what one can do for this Bhagwan and this Sant. That person never reaches their capacity. They keep scaling new heights. Nothing is beyond them. In Vardal 12, Maharaj mentions that one with absolute Nishchay feels that ever since that very day when I met Bhagwan, had his darshan, my moksha was done. I already won. And so he is completely fulfilled. But we know what we're like. We're not fooling anyone. We know the things we shouldn't do but do, and the things we should do but don't. So this feels like a bit of a stretch. Interestingly, 7 days later, in what's been noted in Vardal 14, Maharaj makes two remarkable points. Firstly, Maharaj is asked that why does an unworthy person, who isn't perfect, still get the infinite bliss like that of Samadhi, where the 8th and final stage is the darshan of Akshar Purushottam. Maharaj's response makes clear that none of us are fit to determine or judge the unworthiness of ourselves, or of others. Maharaj elaborates that if that seemingly unworthy person, deep in their heart, appreciates the virtues of Bhagwan and Sant, their sins are destroyed, and they become extremely pure. And the second point is in Vardal 12, Maharaj says, the moment we met Bhagwan. And so some people may think that they weren't around 200 years ago to meet Maharaj. Hence, why in Vardal 14, Maharaj reveals the ashra of the Satpurush, and the Satpurush alone is the only means to becoming pure, for our sins to be washed, and to attain the bliss like that of Samadhi. We saw how Nirlobhipanu can be used as a lens to see the divinity and purity in the Satpurush, and how that can make us want to trust him more, and ultimately saw how that can lead to Nishchay. We're fortunate that we're not limited to just this. We can use any of his Vartmans, virtues, qualities, and work on earth to achieve the same thing, So to conclude, let's pray to Brahma Swami Maharaj and Mahant Swami Maharaj that they grant us the wisdom to realize their true greatness and who they really are. Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwan Ni Jai.
Thank you for joining us today and listening with such devotion. Bhagavan Swaminarayan has taught us the power of listening to katha. It purifies our mind and brings us closer to God. So if this katha helped you, give it a like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone you care about. Until next time, Jai Swaminarayan.